June 17, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. NAACP and the Southern Environmental Law Center have put billionaire Elon Musk, xAI, on notice. They are planning to file a lawsuit against his Memphis company over air pollution. We'll talk to a local leader about that issue. 10 years ago, the Emanuel 9 were murdered in Charleston, South Carolina. We'll talk to a victim's family member about honoring their memory right here on the show. Also, folks, tonight, a new wave of resistance is rising. The League of Women Voters has launched Unite and Rise 8.5, mobilizing 8.5 million Americans to push back against anti-democratic policies. CEO Celina Stewart will join us. And tonight's marketplace, we're drinking smarter. You'll meet the founder of InBooze, the all-natural cocktail kit company, shaking up your happy hour with flavor and wellness. Also, Donald Trump craziness when it comes to the issue of Iran. We'll tell you what's happening there. And a federal judge in Massachusetts makes it perfectly clear the Trump administration is flat out racist when it comes to getting rid of grants for people of color and LGBTQ folks in the National Institutes of Health. Wait till I show you what this federal judge, a Reagan appointee, had to say. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, we've talked on this show about Memphis allowing Elon Musk AI company to put up these turbines. They claim they have the proper amount. The others say, no, that's not the case. We've had Representative Justin Pearson on about that. Well, clearly the NAACP agrees. The NAACP and the Southern Environmental Law Center are going to sue Elon Musk AI company, xAI, claiming it is polluting black neighborhoods in Memphis without permission. Joining us right now to discuss this. First of all, there was a news conference earlier today. We're going to play the news conference, and then we'll be joined by someone from the Memphis NAACP. So here's what we'll see today at the news conference.
This morning, the Southern Environmental Law Center, on behalf of the NAACP, sent a letter to xAI and its affiliates, letting them know that we intend to file suit under the Clean Air Act in response to xAI's continued use of unpermitted methane gas turbines in southwest Memphis. For the last year, these turbines have been pumping hazardous and smog-forming pollution into the air in South Memphis, a community already overburdened with industrial pollution. These pollutants can cause increased rates of asthma, heart disease, respiratory illness, and even cancer. The law is abundantly clear. xAI needed to get an air permit before installing and operating any of the turbines at their facility. Its failure to get a permit is an obvious violation of the Clean Air Act. Over the last year, you've no doubt heard a lot about a 364-day exemption that supposedly allows xAI to run these dirty turbines without any permits or any oversight. I want to be clear, there is no such exemption that applies to turbines. And nobody, not the mayor, not the Chamber of Commerce, not xAI, not the Shelby County Health Department, have been able to point to a single legal citation that would authorize these turbines to operate without a permit.
Yes. This opens the floodgates for more data centers to drain our community of resources and further pollute it.
That's right.
Where is the impact study on the number of jobs this will bring and the effect on the environment? South and Southwest Memphis have long been the dumping ground for toxic corporations.
Today, is an extraordinary day in this movement for justice rooted in love, as we demand that clean air is a human right. And there is not a person, no matter how wealthy or how powerful, that can deny the fact that everybody has a right to breathe clean air. It's not a feeling, it's a fact. This notice to sue xAI is a clarion call for unity across our city and across our county to unite in the fight. There's no more time for political platitudes or to have leaders put their heads in the sand. Now is the time to stand on the side of the people. Mayor Young, Mayor Harris, Director Dr. Michelle Taylor, now is the time to stand on the side of the people. I want to give special thanks to the president of the National NAACP, Derek Johnson, to NAACP.
Joining us now is Bray Connor, the NAACP's Director of the Center for Environmental and Climate Justice. Bray, glad to have you here. So how long have y'all been looking at this? Folks, Representative Pearson has been talking about it for a very long time. Other residents have been talking about it. And when did y'all decide that now was the time to launch this action?
Well, thanks so much for having me this evening. The NAACP, as you know, because of our branches and our state conferences, who have been a part of many environmental and climate justice actions for a number of years, they were on the ground looking at these issues since xAI had started operating. They were asking questions, concerned about their health. They were concerned about what this would mean for the community. And so our branches and our state conferences, which are a part of our larger national footprint, they realized that there was an issue that garnered the attention not only of just the residents in South Memphis, but also of the entire country, to recognize that South Memphis was being seen as a sacrifice zone for this dirty data center.
What I'm still confused by is that if you build something in the city and the county, there's a process. There's a process, and y'all have been saying that they have 30 plus turbines. They've been saying they have 15. I don't understand how hard this is. Doesn't the city or the county have the actual documents that show how many turbines they're using?
Well, your question is a great one. And the fact that the community had to uncover the extra turbines that were operating in South Memphis, it tells a larger story of the lack of transparency, the fact that the community themselves had to go out and uncover these methane gas turbines that have been operating in their communities. And these are the questions that we are asking. These are the questions that our branch leaders and our state conference president and those leadership members are also asking. Why is it that we have elected officials? Why is it that there is a county health department? Why is it that there are so many different entities who should be asking these questions, who should have the answers to these questions, but it really has lied in the hands of the communities to actually come forward and say, we actually, operated drones and were able to actually see that there were additional gas turbines that were operating at this data center.
Well, what I don't even understand is why even have drones? I mean, I don't understand. If you build something in the city and the county, there's a permitting process. There are inspectors. So no one from the city or the county has physically inspected this facility to confirm how many turbines are there?
Well, what I can tell you is that these are the questions that community members are asking. There's been a lot of conversations that have happened without there being any transparency. That was something that we highlighted in the letter that we sent even before this notice of the intent to sue, that the community members have been saying, why is there not more transparency? Why has there not been more public hearings? There's been a couple flyers that don't have a lot of information about what's happened since the beginning, since they started operating back last June. And now the community is saying we're demanding answers because if the city and if the county is not going to do their job, then we're going to file this notice of intent to sue under the Clean Air Act.
Questions? I'm going to introduce my panel right now. Joining us, Dr. Mustafa Santiago, lead former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA. We also out of D.C., Randy Bryant, entrepreneur, author of Never Say It, 25 Phrases You Should Never Ever Say to Keep Your Jobs and Friends. Also D.C., Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of L.A. Mustafa, this is your lane. I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, Bray, it's good to see you and continue the good fight. You know, it's curious. So there, of course, there are the state environmental regulations. On the federal side, we've got NEPA. You've got Title V permits. You've got a number of different things that folks have to go through to be able to, legally run these types of things. What's the analysis look like in relationship? I'll just stay on the EPA side of the equation, the various environmental laws, statutes, and regulations that folks have to be in compliance with.
Bray, did you hear Mustafa's question?
I did not hear your question. No.
Oh, let's see if we can try it again. Mustafa, see if you can ask it again, and then let's see if a Bray can hear.
Okay. Well, Brad, first of all, I was saying it's good to see you.
I did.
Yeah. So let me put it in context. So we know that we've got, a couple 100,000 people who are dying prematurely from air pollution. We know these turbines are going to be, causing additional impacts. My question was, there are state regulations that folks have to follow. Then, of course, on the federal side of the equation, we've got everything from NEPA to Title V permits to a number of other laws, statutes, and regulations that folks have to be in compliance with to even be able to get a permit. So my question is, staying on the EPA side of the equation, how are folks able to move forward on these various sets of things that have to be in place before you can even start business?
Yeah. Well, typically, I guess from the standpoint of the company themselves, they have to look at what the different standards are, for example, as it relates to clean air. And so if you have, for example, 35 gas turbines that are running and operating, they have to apply for permits to ensure that they are actually able to run those turbines actually in a community. The community itself also has the ability to ask questions because these processes are supposed to be open to the public. So, for example, if someone applies for a permit, that's information that the community should be able to find out. And that's how, for example, the community found out that these turbines were operating without any permits at all. There's also the way that this can move forward from a community standpoint as well, is that they also look at, for example, their county Department of Health, or depending on the state, there's other potential regulating agencies who are part of that process. In this situation, we have the Shelby County Department of Health, who should be saying whether or not operating this many gas turbines at a particular time, whether or not that is detrimental to people's health. And in this situation, the Shelby County Department of Health has also dropped the ball by not actually making that recommendation, by not actually making that clear to xAI as well. But xAI also is supposed to be running a permitted operation, which they're not.
All right, Joe.
I surmise, I understand why you're suing the company, but given that the city is at the very least complicit, is there any thought to possibly now or at some other point actually bringing something or involving the city and or what are supposed to be the regulating agencies related to this on top of bringing claims against the company?
Well, we absolutely have continued to say that we believe that there are a lot of individuals and agencies who have been a part of failing South Memphis. And so we are keeping our options open as to additional ways to ensure that we're fighting with the community in South Memphis. And we have not taken any potential legal actions off the table.
Andy?
Has anybody been to xAI to actually evaluate what is happening right now? I mean, it seems as if there's like a dark mystery and we don't even know what's happening there. Has anybody actually been able to tour the plant? Have any inspections happened? I mean, at all, or are they just allowed to run with no regulation?
The community is doing what they can, and they're asking questions when they can. Unfortunately, there have not been many opportunities for the community to ask the regulating agencies and bodies what they've actually done in order to ensure their health, in order to ensure their safety. And so a lot of the information, it's either bits and pieces of information of just knowing the clear violations of the law, or the community having to take matters into their own hand to figure out, for example, how many gas turbines are operating at a particular time unpermitted in their community. But I agree. This is something where this is where your elected officials should be standing on behalf of the community to make sure that there's more transparency. This is where your regulating agency bodies should be standing on behalf of the community members to make sure that there's transparency about any deals that have been created, about what they have uncovered in their conversations. And unfortunately, a lot of that information has not been made public.
All right, then. Bray, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Keep us abreast of what happens in this story next.
All right, thank you.
All right, then, folks. Got to go to break. We come back more on Roland Martin Unfiltered, including we'll talk about this case out of Massachusetts where a Reagan-appointed federal judge rips Donald Trump's administration for their blatant discrimination. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
State of the Democratic Party.
What are the barriers preventing us from seeking true liberation and including more voices in that process?
They overlook Black organizers, young Black people, the work that we do all throughout the year. But then when the election cycle comes around, now all of a sudden they want to listen to us, listen in quotation marks. Now all of a sudden they want our labor and our contributions. And it's just like, for me, I'm at the point where it's like, no, we're not doing that.
Tune in only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Dr. Kwasi Kanadu, author, scholar, and healer. He is one of the truly representative thinkers and activists of our generation.
I had a dream, a particular night, and when I woke up, several ancestors came to me, and they came to me and said, "We really like what you're doing, but you have to do more."
His writing provides a deep and unique dive into African history through the eyes of some of the interesting characters who have lived in it, including some in his own family. The multi-talented, always fascinating Dr. Kwasi Kanadu on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
In France, me and Tony, and accidentally went to the Louvre, right? I had never been, and I saw a side door. And we got off the little bus. I said, come on, let's go to the Louvre. I mean, I'm just like, let's go to the Louvre, right?
We're here.
This black girl is at the door with this white guy, black African girl. And she says, oh my God, Vanessa Bell Calloway. And I'm like this, you know me? And come to find out we were at the wrong door. But she said, I'm gonna let you in, just go in here. But I was in Paris, France. And that shocked me. She knew my name, she knew me. My movie. You know, so it's like, you just gotta, they say, build and they will come. Put it out there, people will find it, they will come.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking faith, family, fatherhood, and the pathway to re-entry. Most of us, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, have had someone in our lives, whether it was a grandfather, a father, an uncle, a brother, or a cousin, who has been incarcerated or justice impacted. What does that look like in rebuilding family and relationships? What does it look like for us to be able to have substantive conversations, come to the table, love on each other, while at the same time get it all out in the open so that we can begin a new journey together?
You know, the last thing you want is in the midst of trying to piece your life back together for home to not be a comfortable place.
That's all next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, Dexter Jenkins is a faith-based financial mentor with more than 20 years in the financial services industry. He's passionate about helping families build generational wealth.
Even though I'm talking about things like prayer, I'm talking about things about reading the word, I'm talking about things like fellowship, I'm talking to members who are dealing with losing their houses, or I'm talking to members who, because of a lack of the handling their finances, they're working 2 and 3 jobs. And so what I'm finding is that they're not coming to church because they don't have a handle on their finances.
We're talking how to get wealthy through faith and our finances on the next Get Wealthy, right here, only on Black Star Network.
We begin tonight with the people who are really running the country right now. Now, Trump is often wrong and misleading about a lot of things, but especially about history. Donald Trump falling in line with President Elon Musk.
In the wake of the unsettling news that MSNBC has canceled Joy Ann Reid's primetime show, The Readout, Roland Martin and the Black Star Network would like to extend an invitation to all of the fans of Joy Ann Reid's MSNBC show to join us every night to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming on the Black Star Network for news, discussion of the issues that matter to you, and the latest updates on the twice impeached criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump and his unprecedented assault on democracy, as well as co-president Elon Musk's takeover of the federal government. The Black Star Network stands with Joy Ann Reid and all folks who understand the power of black voices in media. We must come together and never forget that information is power. Be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Roland S. Martin or download the Black Star Network app.
How you doing? My name is Mark Carey, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Deep into it, like pasteurized milk without the 2%. We getting deep. You want to turn that shit off? We're doing an interview, motherfucker.
Folks, 10 years ago today, Charleston, South Carolina, and the nation were shocked when a white racist at a Bible study shot and killed 9 black people at Mother Emanuel AME Church. Folks, it was absolutely stunning what Dylan Roof did. Of course, he was found guilty and sentenced to death. Reverend Clementa Pinckney, who also served as a state senator, was gunned down, along with Cynthia Graham Hurd, Ethel Lance, Reverend DePayne Middleton, Dr. Reverend Daniel Simmons, Myra Thompson, Reverend Sharonda Coleman Singleton, Susie Jackson, Tawanza Sanders. 5 others survived that horrific shooting. A decade later, Mother Emanuel still stands strong in their faith and spirit. However, South Carolina still lacks a state hate crime law. It's one of only 2 states without one. Reverend Sharon Risher joins us right now. Her mother and 2 cousins were killed that day. There's a reception taking place at the International Slavery Museum there in Charleston, South Carolina. And so she is walking there. Reverend, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Roland.
Do me a favor, remove your thumb from your camera screen so we can see you. There we go, we got you.
Yeah.
Stand steady as you can. Or if somebody's standing next to you, just ask them to hold your camera. If somebody,
nobody's standing.
We got you. This obviously was shocking. It was horrific. And I don't care how much time passes, no one, whether you're a family member or church member, can get over what took place 10 years ago at Mother Emanuel.
No, 10 years though seems like a week ago, the actual day. This big hole in my heart will remain there forever. But I must say, the city of Charleston and all of us here will continue to advocate for them. We will not let anybody forget them and why they were killed in that church.
One of the things, Reverend, I remember, I was watching MSNBC, all these networks, like, oh my goodness, look at this, how they forgiven the shooter, they forgiven. And I was actually angry at that. And the reason I was angry, because all too often, white America wants us to immediately forgive. And I said, man, 9/11 took place a long time ago, and these white folks still ain't forgiven. And I think that people misunderstand the Christian ethos of forgiveness. Forgiveness don't mean we forgot. Forgiveness does not mean that we don't stop fighting.
Exactly. Roland, I was with you. I was very angry and upset. My sister was the first one to say, I forgive you. I hadn't even gotten out of Dallas, Texas yet, because that's where I was living when all of this happened. And I just couldn't believe my ears. I'm hearing this on TV, and all I could do was scream and holler. It took me approximately 2 years to work out in my soul and in my heart about forgiveness. I'm an ordained minister and all of that, but God allowed me to work through this process the best way I knew how. And it was a God thing about the forgiveness. Everybody that I have talked to said that that was not on their mind, but God stepped in and gave them an understanding of why they needed to forgive. Because we know if Charleston hadn't forgiven like they did, it could have easily been another Ferguson or another place. So we thank God that they had the courage to know what God was nudging them to do. Yes, forgiveness was given, but that doesn't mean that we didn't want justice. And of course, that's a whole nother ball game when it comes to my advocacy work and what I've been trying to do.
I think people miss that. Forgiveness doesn't mean we don't want you to go to jail. Now, folk may say we don't believe in the death penalty. We don't want you put to death, even though you shot and killed 9 black folk. But it don't mean we want to see you get out. Doesn't mean we weren't ticked off that those cops took him to Burger King after he got arrested. It doesn't mean that, like, for instance, I was at an event. It was an off-the-record event. And the question came up, and I sat there, and Nikki Haley was talking about all the work that she did and how difficult it was, and how she, got this hate crimes law passed. And I was pissed off. In fact, her family was sitting next to me, and I was mad as hell. I was like, whoa, let me be real clear. That bill got passed because the blood of 9 black people got shed. That's what happened. And all too often in this country, it is taking black blood being shed for this country to move. That's the only reason that Confederate flag came down from the state capitol.
Actually, it came down on July 10th, 2015, which just happened to be my birthday, July 10th. And that day, I looked at the picture of my mother and I said, Mom, look what your blood, your death has caused to happen. We will always remember them. Things have been done in South Carolina, but there's still a lot to be done. We are still steadily trying to get the South Carolina hate bill passed, which it's been stalled. You'd think the state of South Carolina, with all of this that have happened, that they would do this, but they're not. So we will continue to fight to get this law named after Clemente Pinckney, the senator and pastor that died in that church. Me, for one, will never stop advocating, will never stop calling my mother's name, Ethel Lee Lance. And I will continue to advocate and say their names, talk against hate, racism, gun violence, all of the things that God has put on my heart to be an advocate for.
Well, I tell you that the fight does continue, and I have to remind people that it was South Carolina that was the first state to secede from the Union, that led the Confederacy. And the reality is, and those folks had to be dragged kicking to actually take that flag down, even after those 9 black folks had been shot and killed. And they want to hold on to that Confederate viewpoint for so long. They don't believe in hate crime laws, which says that they don't want to punish the folk who commit hate crimes against black folks and other folk. And that, to me, is an absolute shame.
Yes, very much.
Reverend, we with you. Our prayers are with you and the survivors and the family members, and we do not want this day to pass without remembering them, because all too often our folks are forgotten in history. And again, blood was shed, black blood was shed to make changes. And unfortunately, as Emanuel 9 joins a long line of African Americans in American history that have had to die in order for this nation to wake the hell up and do what's right.
Thank you so much, Roland, for having me to continue to put our history out there, to talk about things that nobody else want to talk about. God bless you. God bless you.
Appreciate it. I have yet to be to the museum, but I will get there soon to check it out. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I want to go to my panel here. Randy, I want to start with you. That point that we just can't deny that, again, too often I mean, look at all the stuff that happened after the death of George Floyd. It took George Floyd's life being snuffed out for this nation to say, yeah, we kind of got to fix some stuff. That literally is the history of black people in America.
Sadly, and it's not just that we have to die, it's that we have to die in such a public, brutal way. You think about those 9 people who were in their home of worship, which you would think would be the safest place to be, and are shot down by a young, and they welcomed him in. You know, they welcomed him in. And then what was so that blew me away is you brought up the Burger King. When they took this white young boy murderer to Burger King afterwards to feed him a meal, they could still see his humanity, still were worried about if he wanted something to eat. Whereas Black people every day are fighting for people to see our humanity. It's a stark contrast to the way that we're treated. So yes, like you remember that day back in 2015, I absolutely do too. And again, it's almost like a wake-up call, but we stay woke. We don't get an opportunity to ever rest and relax, because if we can't be safe in our homes of worship, then where are we safe?
Did you say my name? I'm sorry. So it's interesting in South Carolina. I pay a little bit more attention to South Carolina because my daughter's been there, been working there. We all remember where we were 10 years ago. And interestingly, all these years later, there's still no hate crime bill passed. And in Conway, which is the next town over from Myrtle Beach that has a Black mayor, they've dealt with racists doing cross burnings. Then you can't really prosecute them the way that you need to because there is no hate crimes bill. And they've gone out of their way saying, in this particular instance, that the reason why they're doing this, doing these hate crimes, what are hate crimes, is because they hate Black people. People were actually hard to evict, and they were really hard to exact justice against when you know for a fact that these are hate crimes. And so it is important for us to understand and realize, and for society to understand and realize, that the only way that there's often progress on these things, is that somebody has to die. And too often it is a victim of a hate crime, which can be people of color. In this particular instance, Pastor Pinckney and 9 others. I believe it was 10 total or 9 total. And so it's a shame that we're still there. South Carolina still has moves to make and things that it can do. But we just have to continue along the road, speak truth to power, call it what it is. The reason anything got done here is because Black folks died in a situation where they shouldn't have. And even then, you're still not dealing with gun safety issues at the level that we need to. We're still acting like there should have been a consensus to do a hate crime bill. A hate crime bill should have come quickly and soon after. But we're still here in some of those ways. But remaining hopeful and remaining optimistic, we can forgive, like you say, but still seek justice. People want to say forgive and forget, but you're supposed to do justice. It's biblical that you're supposed to do justice. Just like it's biblical, you're supposed to forgive. They're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to do one in lieu of the other. You don't have to pick your poison, as it were. You can still do both and do the right thing. So we have to continue along that route and continue to do that.
Mustafa?
I mean, this is a tough conversation for me because I knew Reverend Pinckney because of all the amazing folks I had worked with in South Carolina. I mean, let's just be honest. We are considered sacrificable people in many places across this country. And as long as that dynamic continues to play out, we are going to see Black brothers and sisters die through all types of horrific actions. And that means, yes, we have to, one, put our arms around each other, build community, but we also got to hold people responsible. We got to let folks know that if you take a life in our community, that there is a price to pay. Now, I'm all for the legal system, but I also understand that we have to protect our communities because nobody's coming to save us. If somebody was going to come to save us, it would have happened a long time ago. And that's why we have a responsibility to do all that we need to do to keep our community safe. You know, when I'm going through these traumatic situations and thinking about what happened 10 years ago, I write because it helps me to deal both on the mental health side of the equation, but also to give clarity into the moment and the things that we need to do. And I wrote this piece this morning, and it'll just take me 30 seconds here, around Holy Ground Got Blood in It. 10 years ain't healed the pews, still whispering psalms through smoke. Some Sundays the choir don't sing, they moan in key. Grief stuck in their throats like gunfire's echo. A man walked in with skin that the law don't fear, carried hate like scripture and made a sanctuary bleed. 9 names carved into air, ain't no wind strong enough to forget them. They were prayer and porch light, hallelujah and hush, black and beloved. But America got a blind spot where its heart should be. Calls it history, calls it mental illness, never calls it what it is. We ain't just mourning, we fighting. Lighting candles while building barricades, loving God while watching our backs. We know peace don't come without a reckoning. So we hold hands, say their names like armor. Cynthia, Susie, Tawanza, Daniel, Sharonda, Myra, Ethel, DePayne, and yes, Clementa. This ain't just a eulogy. It's a war cry wrapped in a hymn, a vow made with tear-stained mouths. We're going to turn this grief into something holy that fights back.
All right, then. Well, we certainly appreciate that. And Randy and Joe, don't be getting no ideas of writing poems and then y'all going to read them on the show. So that's a one-time only thing. All right. All right. Great job, Mustafa. Good job, Frat. Folks, we come back. A federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan says the Trump administration's ban on National Institutes of Health grants is the most blatant discrimination he has witnessed from the federal bench in 40 years. We will discuss next on the show. Don't forget, folks, you want to support this show and this network. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing or more, contributing on average $50 each a year. Y'all, that's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. Now, here's the deal. I purposely don't charge people to subscribe to this show. We don't have a Patreon. We're not hitting you on Substack because we wanted the content of this show to be widely available. So we're available, of course, on YouTube, on Facebook. We post our content stuff on Instagram and Fanbase and TikTok and Snapchat and all the social platforms. Also our Black Star Network app. And so that's what our goal is. That's one of the reasons why we're one of the top 100 podcasts on YouTube. But your support is critical because we don't have millionaires and billionaires cutting us checks. They're not sending us money every single month. These ad agencies out here, they're not sitting here including us. I've met with several of them. We had one meeting, haven't heard from them since. And so your support is critical to us building this show into something larger. I told you before, I'm literally having blackstarnetwork.com being rebuilt as we speak as a portal for news and information. That is happening right now. We hope it will be done in the next 30 days. We'll have written stories in addition to our video stories. We're adding new shows, and so we shot a business pilot show. We're looking at a health show, other shows as well. There's specialized content that we're doing, going to be traveling on the road, broadcasting across the country. All of this happens with resources. And so when you join one of the 35,000 people that have supported us since we launched this show on September 4th, 2018, and since we launched this network on September 4th, 2021. So to do so, please contribute via Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. Cash App changed their rules, so we don't have direct accounts, so we got to use Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. Of course, you can click the Cash App button to continue to contribute. Also, if you want to send a check and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Again, Roland Martin Unfiltered. Send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037 7-0196. You got to give us 4 to 6 weeks when you send it, folks, because you're coming here in the mail. Then we got to deposit it, but mobile, or we may have to actually mail it to the bank when sometimes it can't read your check or the money order. You can contribute via PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered, paypal.me/R. Martin Unfiltered. You're going to see it says New Vision Media. That's our parent company. Venmo is venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. When you get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide, or get the audio version on Audible. That money comes back into the show as well. When you buy our swag, of course, our shirts and hats and other things at RolandMartin.creator-spring.com, QR codes there as well. We get a pro cut of that. It comes back into the show. When you shop the black products at shopblackstarnetwork.com, we also get a cut of that. That's another way to support the show. That's shopblackstarnetwork.com. So there are multiple ways that you can support us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. And so please do so, and we appreciate all of that. I'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Dr. Kwasi Kanadu, author, scholar, and healer. He is one of the truly representative thinkers and activists of our generation.
I had a dream, a particular night, and when I woke up, several ancestors came to me, and they came to me and said, "We really like what you're doing, but you have to do more."
His writing provides a deep and unique dive into African history through the eyes of some of the interesting characters who have lived in it, including some in his own family. The multi-talented, always fascinating Dr. Kwasi Kanadu on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
State of the Democratic Party.
What are the barriers preventing us from seeking true liberation and including more voices in that process?
They overlook Black organizers, young Black people, the work that we do all throughout the year. But then when the election cycle comes around, now all of a sudden they want to listen to us, listen in quotation marks. Now all of a sudden they want our labor and our contributions. And it's just like, for me, I'm at the point where it's like, no, we're not doing that.
Tune in only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Across the country, women are building a powerful movement to resist what many see as a fallen democracy. Unite and Rise 8.5 is mobilizing 8.5 million people to stand up against the anti-democratic actions of the Trump administration. This, of course, was launched in May of this year. And so this is, of course, a critical effort because we've always talked about the importance of, again, mobilizing and organizing. Mobilizing and organizing. And run through the 2026 midterm elections. The initiative is really important because people keep saying, yo, who's doing what? What are they doing? What's happening? It's part of the Women Defend Democracy campaign led by the League of Women Voters. Celina Stewart is the CEO of the League of Women Voters of the United States. She joins us right now. Celina, glad to have you on the show. First and foremost, when we say to stand up against the anti-democratic actions, what does it actually mean?
That means being out here in these streets. And it also means, for Black people, that means something a little different, right? Because I think Black people are having to be more strategic about how we raise our voice to be protest, right? And so the economic boycott, the economic protest has been something that I think Black communities have leaned into more. But when it comes to the League, one of the things that we are talking about is participating in the streets, understanding that when you are white in this country, that the crime against you during a protest is probably going to be less. And so it means showing up It means withholding your dollars. It means going out to protests like the ones that happened this weekend with the No Kings action. But it's really about leveraging not only our voice, but our bodies to push back and show that this country is still about the people and a democracy.
One of the things that I'm actually working on a book about this here is that one of the things that I keep seeing is that, and I keep hearing, is that people in this country don't believe that their vote matters. So how do you walk people through that and explain to them that their vote does indeed matter, but to be a part of change, it takes more than just voting?
Yeah. So I think that you're exactly right. And when we were touring during this last election cycle, we did hear from people who were just like in Arizona and Nevada who were just like, our vote doesn't matter. And I think what we have to impress upon people is, one, we need to get to the core of why you feel that way, because it's likely more than voting. But why do you feel like you are not valued? But the second piece of that is that sometimes you have to show people data. I was just in Indiana and Tennessee the last couple of weeks, and we were going through, and we know both Indiana and Tennessee have one of the lowest turnout rates in the country in terms of voters showing up on election day. But one of the things we went through and we saw is that some of these elections were won or lost by 23 or so votes. That's wild. I think if we're able to communicate with people about how slim some of these margins are and how critical these roles play when these people are in charge of your life, whether that is the reading that your kids have in school, whether or not the pothole gets fixed, whether it takes 5 minutes or 15 minutes to get to your house if a crime is committed or if you need support or help from the police or fire, I think we have to drill it down to just regular people. And I think that that's one thing that has been missed in, recent communication and messaging that has been done. We have to reach people where they are and let them know just how critical it is to their everyday lives, and not just this one-time thing that we do for midterms or for the presidential election.
I'm glad you said that. I was having a conversation in Columbus, Ohio on Friday after my speech there in the town hall we had, and we were at dinner. And I was literally saying, I was talking about what Joe Madison, my good buddy, used to always say, you got to put it where the ghost can get it. And I said, you can't talk about this in a 30,000 feet way. You have to literally explain to people, and there's no disrespect, in a fourth grade reading level. People understand newspapers are written on a fourth grade level. We have to also connect the dots. We have to be very mindful of the words that we use, the language that we use. We can't use, if I really want to go there, as they always say, highfalutin words. You shouldn't be using words that force somebody to go to a dictionary. And I know people might say, dang, bro, why you got to be that cold? But that's just the reality. We have to really understand that folk need you to make it plain for them to really understand what we're trying to get them to do.
That's right. And, rest in peace, Joe Madison. Love, love, love. He's one of the stalwarts of, I think, civil rights and just an activist. And I miss him a lot. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that we have to drill this down to regular people speak, because the reality is that people care about things that they do every day. And I think that when we are talking about things that affect everybody and their lives, you just have to connect with people. This is about connecting with communities and connecting with people and not getting out of politics. Because when you get out of DC, you start to hear real conversations. Farmers, you hear from people who are trying to hold it down with 2 jobs. We're trying to talk to people who are having a hard time paying $6 for eggs. And so when you are talking about political lingo, like what you're saying, these highfalutin language, don't nobody care about that. Don't nobody understand that. So you just have to speak plain language to people. But I think that's how you connect the dots for people, which is bring it down to what matters to people every day: their kids, their family, their houses, the taxes that they're going to pay, how much they're going to pay for gas and eggs. And that's what gets people to understand. And when you layer on that the 23 votes that some counties or some people won by, it really makes it plain. But one of the things that stood out to me after this past election is there were a couple of million, I think it was almost 2 million people who searched on Google, how do I change my vote for president? That's a problem. That's a problem that people don't understand, how civics and how government works in this country. And it means that it's also an opportunity on platforms like this, and also for the League of Women Voters, to truly educate people about the impact of their decisions. Because there's a lot of people hurting right now who voted for this president or who didn't vote for this president, and we're all having to suffer from the consequences.
Questions from the panel. Randy, you first.
I love what you're saying here about taking the conversation, like not dumbing it down, but making it where everybody can relate to it. But I also wonder how do you feel about asking why and listening some? It seems like we do a lot of talking to people, but I often feel like we don't ask them questions like what matters to you, so they can find a reason, and we could find a reason why voting all of a sudden should matter to them. Because sometimes voting seems like something and democracy seems like something so separate from our daily lives. But if we say what matters to you, I mean, we talk about the eggs and things, but if you say, I see that your wife is pregnant, what about Medicaid? Since 41% of births are covered by Medicaid. Like, it just, where we set up town halls again. I mean, I just remember the olden days of town halls where we really got to hear people's opinions, and not just the same people we hear from all of the time, but really getting a cross section of citizens and listen to their voices, particularly the people's voices that don't feel like they have a voice. I just wanted to know your thoughts about that.
No, I think that's true. And when I was saying, having conversations with people and asking, why don't you feel like you matter? Like, that's a deep question. When I'm talking to young people in particular, it may be because, when I go into court, the judge doesn't care about me. And I'm like, well, do you know that in this state that you elect those people? So when you're talking about going before a judge, and either it's for child support or whatever the case may be, do you understand the power that you have to actually elect the person who has the right to make decisions over your life? And so I think it is a conversation. And I think that I think you're absolutely right that we have to listen to what people are saying and what is going to motivate them to vote, because it's going to be something different for each person. But when we talk to one person, it may reach multiple people, because they may go back and talk to their family members and talk about why it's important to vote. But I think you're absolutely right. Asking more questions, being intentional about listening, but also using that as an opportunity to connect the dots with the power that they have over their own lives to stop whatever problem that they raise and why they feel like they don't matter.
I think I may be next. So, sister, first of all, thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for being a leader who understands how important it is to make sure that the unseen and unheard, have a platform and have a place where they can go, where folks actually care about them. For you to be successful, what does it look like? What does it take for your organization to be able to hit the goals that you put forward for yourselves?
Stop it. Coach Roy said, what's up? That's the first. And then second, I will say that, right now I'm deep in prayer, because I think a lot about, we don't talk about this. It's not always acceptable to talk about this in spaces, but we're in spiritual warfare right now. This is a fight between light and darkness. And so when I think about what it takes for me to be successful, just as a woman, as a Black woman leading a primarily white organization, it really means leaning into my faith and my gut and my intuition about what I think is the right thing to do. And sometimes doing the right thing is hard because it may put you in jeopardy. I know for myself, it puts me at risk in some ways. The risk goes up. But the reality is that if you're living in your purpose, it's always going to come with risk, but you just have to pray that protection is coming based on how you walk in your walk.
All right, Joe, batter up. You're up.
Okay. I know that in the League of Women Voters versus Trump case, you've gotten a preliminary ruling for TRO to hold off some of these terrible provisions in his executive order from coming to fruition, at least for the time being. Talk about how you're using, or if you're using, things that are very real, like what they're trying to do with this SAVE Act, like what he's trying to do with this executive order to help explain to folks why voting is important. Are there ways that you can use those things to show very, very real examples of why votes count and matter, and how this attempt at undercutting the right to vote in so many ways could be so devastating?
So I think about the League's origin story and how, the founder of our organization had a goal of enfranchising half of the female population at the time, which represented about 10 million women in this country. And when I fast forward to today, the SAVE Act is one of the most, if not the most egregious pieces of, this isn't even legislation. We have an EO from a president who's overreaching the bounds of his own authority. But we have, an attack on women. The SAVE Act is an anti-marriage bill. It's an anti-female bill. It's an anti-trans bill, because this bill will have the impact of disenfranchising 80% of women who have taken the surnames of their partner. And if we want to put the math on that, lawyers don't really do math, but I have some math theory for you anyway. 69 million women would be impacted. 69 million women could show up in 2026 and not be able to vote. And if we think about that in context of what this last election, how many people showed up, it's about 156 million people. That's half the election. And so we have to think about it that concretely, that 69 million people, women in particular, would be disenfranchised from voting. And when you have worked for, not me, I'm not 105, but the organization is 105 years old. When the organization, the work that we have been doing for more than 105 years has been to enfranchise women, to make sure women understand, what's on their ballot, educated about who they're voting for, et cetera. And now that work goes beyond women to anyone in the country who wants to understand how to effectively cast their ballot. And if we think about the reasons why people change their name, not only marriage, if people are changing their identity, but sometimes it's just for safety reasons. You may have to change your name because of a domestic dispute. So now, because you have changed your name, and that has been historically something that women have done in this country and other countries alike, now you're being penalized by a single effort by the president and Congress with the SAVE Act and they're just not being honest about the real impact it's going to have. And this is not conjecture. We have in New Hampshire, where this is already passed, and just this past primary, women had issues voting. So this is not pretend, it's not made up. This is real challenges that people are going to play. That was just an example, a very small example of how this will affect across the country.
Right then, well, keep up the good fight. We certainly appreciate you joining us, and hopefully y'all will hit that 8.5 million and wake folks up to what's happening in this country.
Thank you, Roland.
All right, folks, when we come back from this break, we're going to talk about this ruling out of Massachusetts where a conservative-appointed federal judge said the Trump administration's ban on National Institutes of Health grants for people of color and LGBTQ folks is the most blatant form of discrimination he has witnessed from the federal bench in the last 4 decades. Yes. We'll talk about that next, right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking faith, family, fatherhood, and the pathway to re-entry. Most of us, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, have had someone in our lives, whether it was a grandfather, a father, an uncle, a brother, or a cousin, who has been incarcerated or justice impacted. What does that look like in rebuilding family and relationships? What does it look like for us to be able to have substantive conversations, come to the table, love on each other, while at the same time get it all out in the open so that we can begin a new journey together?
The last thing you want is, in the midst of trying to piece your life back together, for home to not be a comfortable place.
That's all next on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
State of the Democratic Party.
What are the barriers preventing us from seeking true liberation and including more voices in that process?
They overlook Black organizers, young Black people, the work that we do all throughout the year. But then when the election cycle comes around, now all of a sudden they want to listen to us, listen in quotation marks. Now all of a sudden they want our labor and our contributions. And it's just like, for me, I'm at the point where it's like, no, we're not doing that.
Tune in only on The Other Side of Change on the Black Star Network.
Y'all, look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
How many times have I told y'all that Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and this MAGA Republican administration is absolutely racist? That they are anti-Black. Now, we know they anti-LGBTQ. We know that. But they anti-Black, okay? And here you have a federal judge in Massachusetts appointed by Republican conservative Ronald Reagan. Now, Reagan didn't like Black people. We all know that too. This federal judge, in ruling in a lawsuit regarding the canceling of grants in the National Institutes of Health, literally said that this is the most blatant discrimination that he has seen in 40 years on the bench. Folks, this is crazy. This here is a New York Times article. And the ruling from the bench, Judge William G. Young of the Federal District Court for the District of Massachusetts, blasted the Trump administration, ordering them to restore much of the funding pending an appeal. Look at this quote, y'all. This represents racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBTQ community. That's what this is. He said, look at this here. Judge Young, a Reagan appointee with 40 years of experience as a federal judge, said the government's rationale for canceling some of the grants, which also supported research into topics such as gender identity and equity in all healthcare, appeared to be rooted in prejudice. He cited the administration's very public efforts to eliminate any trace of diversity and equity initiatives from the federal government, as well as its attacks on transgender people. Now, when you go through reading this article, he said that over the course of his career, he had, quote, never seen government racial discrimination like this, and felt duty-bound to state his conclusion about the government's intent. Quote, I would be blind not to call it out. Folks, this is crazy. It's unbelievable. Now, see, this is not, oh, that's y'all just saying this stuff. No. Now, when they had the trial, he was grilling Trump's lawyers, okay? Hitting them up, blasting them about their decision-making. Now, Andrew Nixon, a spokesman for the Department of Health and Human Services, said the agency stands by its decision to end funding for research that prioritizes ideological agendas. That's what he calls it. Ideological agendas. Look at this. Leading up to the ruling on Monday, Judge Young repeatedly pressed for details about the government's decision-making in terminating the grants, expressing deep skepticism that it had followed normal, dispassionate processes. On several occasions, he expressed dismay that much of the publicly available information about the cancellations had to be gleaned from GrantWatch, an independent database put together by a small team of academics who worked to piece together the extent of the Trump administration's cuts through their crowdsourcing. The way that, y'all, this is crazy. This is literally what the judge said. Can you imagine? Can you imagine this whole deal? I mean, in looking at this story, I mean, ProPublica also had their breakdown right here. It says, in Monday's ruling, the judge determined that the directives that led to the grant terminations were, quote, arbitrary and capricious, and said they had, quote, no force and effect. Now, his ruling only covers the grants that the plaintiffs identified. But it was absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy what he said. Come back. ProPublica story. He also noted the administration's targeting of LGBTQ plus research. Quote, it is palpably clear these directives and the set of terminated grants here also are designed to frustrate, to stop research that may bear on the health. We are talking about health here, the health of Americans, of our LGBTQ community. That's appalling. Folks, this is a Reagan-appointed federal judge. Kush Desai, White House spokesman, this is how they responded. Quote, it was appalling that a federal judge would use court proceedings to express his political views and preferences, adding that, quote, justice ceases to be administered when a judge clearly rules on the basis of his political ideologies. Desai also defended the administration's policies targeting diversity, equity, inclusion, calling it, quote, a flawed and racist logic. He also said that the administration was committed to, quote, restoring the gold standard of science, which he claimed involved a recognition of the biological reality of the male and female sexes. The NIH, he said, is shifting, quote, research spending to address our chronic disease crisis instead, not to validate ideological activism. Joe, you're an attorney. Can you recall a federal judge, a conservative judge appointed by a Republican, excoriating the government in such stark racial language?
No, is the short answer. You know, even some of Bush 1 and Bush 2's appointees were more moderate. They were conservative. But this guy he's a conservative. He's a conservative's conservative, it seems like. And to the extent that the government wants to allege that he's stating his political ideology, well, maybe so if his political ideology is actually pro-Constitution. You know, there are some conservatives out here who believe in the Constitution, and arbitrary and capricious is a big problem. Clearly, this is, you know, Project 2025 and its ilk and its spirit. So you just go and you just slash everything having to do with DEI, having to do with LGBTQ plus, you know, then incidentally, of course, next door to that, having to do with trans issues, et cetera. And you just get rid of all of it just because. And you just can't do it that way, particularly at this level. And so it ought to say something that a judge with this political leaning, how he's been, who appointed him and how long he's been on the bench. It's not his first rodeo. He's been doing this longer than a lot of these guys in the administration or puppies have been alive. So when he says something, it ought to resonate in that if someone has any shred of believing in the Constitution, they should know that they got it wrong here in terms of how they did what they did. However, it's just like anything else. You don't even have to be in the law. You don't even have to be dealing with legal issues and constitutional issues to understand what they're doing politically. They often accuse someone, whether it's a judge, whether it's another politician, or whether it's certain people, whether it's Democrats, whether it's independents, whoever it is, of doing exactly what they're doing. So what they're doing is blaming the judge for being political, when in fact, the judge is being constitutional, and they're the ones that are being political, which is why the things that they're trying to cut are the things that they're trying to cut. And so I'm glad that he pointed that out. he pointed out also that this only applies to the things that have been named. Maybe that means hint, hint, hint. You should bring a couple more of these other people, other agencies, as to other things that have been cut as arbitrarily and as capriciously. But yeah, in answer to your question, no, I haven't seen it like this. And in another world, hopefully with someone, it resonates to demonstrate that the administration has a problem with the way they're doing what it is that they're doing, and that this can be a template to allow us and to remind us to keep going as it pertains to the courts, because a lot of this is so blatantly racist, so blatantly fill in the blank, etc., that we may be able to come in under a standard like this, bring funding back in, make some things happen in the meantime, hopefully win this election coming up, so that some of these things can potentially change permanently, and or some of this ridiculous legislation doesn't get passed.
Mustafa, here's what's quite interesting here, and I'm just pulling up. Give me 1 second. I want to pull this up here. This is from the Federal Judiciary Center. This judge, 85 years old, nominated by Ronald Reagan on March 8th, 1985, confirmed by the Senate on April 3rd, 1985. First of all, that's real quick. 1 month. He assumed senior status on July 1st, 2021. Undergrad, Harvard University. Law school, Harvard Law. U.S. Army captain. Law clerk for Supreme Court of Massachusetts. Private practice, Special Assistant Attorney General for Massachusetts. Chief Counsel for the Governor of Massachusetts. Associate Justice, the Massachusetts Superior Court, and he's lectured at Boston College Law School, Boston University Law School, and Harvard Law School. We talked a lot on this show about how judges were so important. And a lot of people, I don't care, I don't want to hear about no Biden-Harris judges. I hope all these Simple Simon yahoos now understand, with all of these judges ruling against Trump, according to the law, I hope they now understand why federal judges matter. A lot of these judges ruling against Trump are appointed by Republican presidents, even some of Trump's own appointees. Not that fool Judge Cannon in Florida, ruling against him on the rule of law. And what these judges are saying is, I don't give a damn if you're MAGA. I don't give a damn if you believe in a theocracy. In this country, you are to abide not by your Bible, not by Project 2025, not by the Heritage Foundation, not by the Federalist Society, but by the United States Constitution.
And that's exactly what it should be. And you can always tell who's real, right? Judges that are actually living up to the letter of the law, but also bringing into their analysis, what are the public health impacts, right? So when you see these other judges who you know are not doing the right thing, they often don't want to talk about the public health impacts, right? They don't want to talk about the public health impacts to the LGBTQIA community. They definitely don't want to talk about the health impacts that are going on in relationship to Black communities. And I'm sure that this judge took that into consideration. He understood, based upon the folks that he talked to, that we die at twice the rate from cardiovascular disease. So if you're a real judge, you're going to make sure that you're pulling that information in, or that we have the highest death rates from cancer, whether it is prostate, colorectal, or breast cancer. Black folks are dying from that higher than anyone else inside of our country. So as you're interpreting the law, you're looking at these grants that are out there, then you got to take that into consideration and asking, are you intentionally trying to kill these people by taking away the research, by taking away the training, by taking away the dollars that are necessary, whether it is in colleges and universities or in community organizations or whoever it might be. He probably took into consideration also that the infant mortality rate is 2 times for our communities, twice as likely our babies are to die, or mom's mortality is 3 to 4 times higher. Or for both the LGBT community and the Black community as a whole, 42% of the new cases that are out there are caught up into that. Or diabetes, we're 60% more likely to have that, and then leads to other types of diseases. So a good judge is taking all this information and then asking the question to the folks who are trying to take these things away: how does this help? How does this actually help to move the needle in a positive way? And how does it line up with the law?
Randy, I am reading the political story here. The judge says, come on, go to my iPad, Anthony. I'm hesitant to draw this conclusion, but I have an unflinching obligation to draw it. That this represents racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBT community. That's what this is. I would be blind not to call it out. My duty is to call it out. Go down further in the story. This is crazy. He says, you are bearing down on people of color because of their color. The Constitution will not permit that. Have we fallen so low? Have we no shame? Then, Young said the administration made virtually no effort to push back on claims that the cuts were discriminatory. We're talking about health here, the health of Americans, of our LGBT community. That's appalling. Now check this out. The Department of Justice, which defended, this is a political story, which defended NIH, argued the terminations align with congressional mandates to improve research. Quote, research programs based on gender identity are often unscientific, have little identifiable return on investment, and do nothing to enhance the health of many Americans. Many such studies ignore rather than seriously examine biological realities. It is an improvement to eliminate these, DOJ lawyer Thomas Ports Jr. said during the hearing. Young pressed the DOJ for an explanation. Where's the support for that? I'm asking you to just explain to me, often used to support unlawful discrimination. I see no evidence of that. A federal judge, a conservative judge appointed by a hardcore Republican, Ronald Reagan, issues this type of ruling. And you know who's real quiet, Randy? All them Negroes who were skinning and grinning at the White House. I don't hear nothing from Pastor Darrell Scott. Oh, he was tweeting yesterday about how they should bomb MSNBC and CNN. And I tweeted his ass blasting him. Oh, then they was sitting here. I ain't heard nothing from Michaela Montgomery, the little loudmouth out of Atlanta who was with Trump at Chick-fil-A. Angela Stanton King, she ain't said nothing. She was on Willie D's podcast. She ain't talked about this here. Where you at, Joseph Pinion? Where you at, King Randall? Where you at? That little elf, Terrence Williams? Where y'all at? Where you at, Davis Harris Jr.? It's amazing how these happy-go-lucky Negroes. Where you at, Paris Denard? Where you at? Oh, where you at, that little child with the Florida A&M, Sharice Lane? Where you at? It's amazing. See, they get mad. I call them to help, because that's all y'all are. And yeah, where your ass at, Tiger Woods? You rolled up in the Black History Month reception, draped in your Congressional Medal of Honor. I'm sorry, your Presidential Medal of Freedom. But y'all don't say nothing about the racism coming from these folks. Oh, I know what it is. Where you at, Alveda King? Where you at, Byron Donalds? Where you at, Tim Scott? Where you at, Burgess Owens? Where you at? What little one from Texas? Wesley Hunt. Where you at? Where y'all at? It's amazing how silent they are. They don't say nothing about all of the racial discriminatory stuff that goes down. Where you at, Bruce Lavelle? Where you at? That's why I call y'all to help. They only call y'all to help them look diverse. Y'all are the help, pure and simple. Randy, go ahead.
They're the absolute help, and they have no room in this conversation because it's so refreshing to see integrity because we haven't seen that lately. And I appreciate that the judge said, my duty is to call it out. Your duty is not like the people you just listed to kiss butt, to shuck and jive, to gain favor. That's not the duty. The duty is to serve the Constitution of the United States of America. And that's what that judge did. And he recognizes that what they are doing, what they are trying to do, attempting to do, these executive orders, is honestly orders to kill us. Honestly, orders to kill us, because it wasn't until recently that Black people willingly were able to participate in studies that they did at the NIH. We weren't even considered when they came out with statistics or came out with health recommendations. It wasn't about us. They didn't care about us. They weren't looking at diseases like sickle cell anemia that affects us to a higher rate. Just like Brother Mustafa just said, they weren't talking about the health disparities when we have children. It wasn't anything that was considered. And so that's what they want to go back to, that the only people's health that are considered and studied and paid attention to, again, are white, male, and heterosexual. And those are the people they care about. So, but it is so refreshing to see someone who is basing his decisions and has some integrity in basing his decisions on how the Constitution bids him to, and not on trying to please a wannabe dictator.
All right, folks, let's talk about a true legend in American history, Robert Smalls. Too many Black folks don't even know about Robert Smalls. He, of course, was a South Carolina legislator, but more importantly, this man commandeered a ship, took it over and led him and others to freedom. Well, there's a new book out. It's called Defying, the Story of Robert Smalls. It's an illustrated book. Some call it a graphic novel, but again, slavery to me was the most graphic things. I don't necessarily think that this is as graphic as it is. And so, and again, as opposed to a traditional book, there are great books on Robert Smalls. This is all illustrated. Joining us right now is the illustrator of the book, and glad to have him join us right now. Rob Edwards. Rob, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Why'd you pick Robert Smalls as the subject?
Well, you know, there's so many stories that just get lost in history. You know, that it wasn't until recently that we found out about, you know, the 12 years a slave story. And Robert Smalls was one of these things. A friend of mine who worked at Legion M, he told me about. And as he told me about it, I consider myself a pretty well-read guy. I did not know his story. So I had to kind of go through. Fortunately, I got a lot of research. You know, Dr. Maisha Eatman at Harvard helped me out with a lot of the context. And Michael Boulware Moore, who's great-great-grandson of Robert Smalls, helped me out with some of the details.
So when did you first learn about him?
Man, I tell you, it was on this project. There was a meme that somebody had sent in to Legion M, and it said, "Man, we make all these movies about all these other people, but here's a guy from history that we've made no movies about." And why is that? It's such a huge tragedy. And I agree. I think that every kid in high school should be wearing a Robert Smalls T-shirt. Hopefully, we'll fix that.
Again, I mean, when you look at his story, I mean, even after, I mean, just, first of all, it's crazy there's not been a movie about Robert Smalls.
Exactly. We make movies about everything. You know, I mean, myself, I mean, I've written, you know, a Black Princess, you know, Captain America, Black Captain America, and no, you know, actual genuine, you know, heroes from history. So, and
I want to stop you right there because you just used the key word. You said heroes. And I think part of the problem here is that And I remember when Snoop Dogg and I went at it when the Roots remake took place, and he was complaining about these slave movies. I saw this clip the other day, and I blasted that fool. Some black Canadian sister was on Adam Carolla's podcast, and she was bitching and moaning about all they do is make slave movies. When Will Smith's movie came out, Emancipation, I said the problem that black folk they keep looking at these as slave movies, but they're not looking at these folks as black superheroes.
Yeah, see, that's where I started with these things. Is that my problem is you always see the same movie. You know, it's always okay. There's a slave. He's he's there for whatever good or either he was free before or he wasn't. He escapes, and the entire movie is about the escape. And then in the end, oh boy, he's free, and that's the end of the movie. And Robert Smalls, his story begins with his freedom. He started a bunch of businesses. He, because of the bounty on the weapons that were on the Planter, the ship that he commandeered, he became wealthy. He bought the house that he was enslaved in. He ran for Congress successfully 5 times. Made Jim Crow in attempts to frame him for bribery. And what I think is most heroic, most deserving of a superhero status, is that he died of old age because there was a bounty on his head the entire time. Now think about this, that here's a guy his story, if it had gotten out at the time, would have been truly inspirational to people. Think about what happened during the Haitian Rebellion, right? They dragged people through the streets, through black neighborhoods to warn them that if they ever did anything like this, this is what would happen to them. And here's a guy who not only escapes, but he meets Lincoln. He convinces Lincoln to allow black people to fight for the Union, which is, downstream from what you see in the movie Glory. And, he fights 17 battles. He's an amazing, amazing guy. This story is inspirational, whether he's white, black, or whatever.
A quote here, it says, "My race needs no special defense, for the past history of them in this country proves them to be equal of any people anywhere. All they need is an equal chance in the battle of life."
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, think about it. This guy, among other things, what he did was he disguised himself as the captain, mirrored the captain's mannerisms, got past 5 military checkpoints, and then surrendered the ship to the Union Army. So he outsmarted the entire Confederate Navy and, showed bravery. They lined the ship with gunpowder so that in case things went wrong, they were going to blow up the ship. All of these things, and that was basically the case that he made to Lincoln. So I look at this as a story that we absolutely have to tell. That kids need to hear it. Kids need to be inspired by it. Here's a guy who came from the lowest to the low and went to the highest points of government. It's a shame that we don't know him more about him right now.
I love this here. He participated in one of America's first mass boycotts of segregated public transportation. In streetcars in Philadelphia were integrated in 1867. And again, when you served in the state legislature, served in the U.S. Congress, did amazing work, and of course also tried to lead an anti-discrimination amendment to the U.S. Army. Go to my iPad. This is history.house.gov, and it lays out all of these different things. Look at this. He argued against transferring federal troops stationed in South Carolina, warning that without the military's presence, private red shirt militias, all white paramilitaries who backed the Democratic Party's effort to win control of the state, would make war on both the state government and the state's freed people. That is exactly what happened when the compromise of 1877, and that was a result of that compromise, which also reinstated Jim Crow.
Yep. And one thing that I love about it is that he drafted the legislation that gave us public schools. that he was, it was so important to him that he couldn't read. He was a very well-spoken guy. He was basically raised as by a slave master as kind of a rich white boy. And so he was very well spoken. P.T. Barnum had him giving speeches everywhere. And so when he was free, he had two tutors, one in the morning, one at night, to teach him how to read. So when he got to Congress, one of the first things he did was public schools. And it's a shame to me that in public schools, we don't teach Robert Smalls. It's a tragedy.
Questions for our panel. Joe, you're first.
This is a really interesting project, and I wonder what you would see as the takeaway, the lesson. Is there some 15,000 foot view that you would, in addition to, of course, the obvious, the idea you hadn't even known about this, and you consider yourself learning and looking at those things, that this undiscovered story of this man, that's a big thing as well. But what is the piece that you'd like people to take out of the story that they can turn around and apply in their own lives and be encouraged and inspired?
Yes, two things, actually. One is that here was a man who he's never in his brain was he a slave, in my mind. That he had a vision of what he thought the world should be, and he made the world kind of conform to his vision. One of the reasons why he stole the planter on the night that he did was that he was afraid that his son was going to get sold by his wife's owner. That he was very bad with money, and he had just had this child, and black boys, on the market would have bailed him out of a lot of his financial jams. So here was a guy willing to do whatever it took to make the world a better place for his family. So that's one. The second is we have to tell our own stories. That this story, there's a reason why you don't hear it. You guys have been talking about it. There is an effort right now. Pete Hegseth is renaming, all kinds of, bases and military ships. And, it's all but being erased. I think what's going on in Florida, I'm not expected to do any book signings there anytime soon. There is an attempt to stop telling our history, and we have to find a way to tell it. I'll say also, I have two sons, and if I gave them a book on history, who knows what would happen to it? But a comic book, a graphic novel, I think that you got to meet people where they are, and I think this is a great way to tell it.
Now, first of all, how old are your sons?
Now they're old. Now they're 32 and 27. But they,
bruh, see you see it's real simple. You want to eat, you want to read. See, it would have been like, hey, you got to take your pick. You want to be clothed and fed, what you want to do? All right? Look, I understand. I'm a hardcore reader. I remember, look, my oldest niece, Atlantis, she now worked for me. She came to me one day. She's like, Uncle Roro, can I watch TV? I shot her a look. She went, read a book? I said, that's a good choice.
Yeah. No, they're good kids. My oldest kid was an Ivy League. He went to the Ivy League, and my little kid played Division I lacrosse. So I
read.
But when they were little, forget about bringing a book into their bedrooms. It would not get read.
I'll tell you what, thank God this was the case. And a lot of black people out there, y'all probably have this here. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull this up here. Let me ask you, did you have this? And actually, pull up my guests and pull up my three panelists. I want to know that they all have this here. Did y'all have Ebony Magazine's brown leather-bound editions of the history of Black America? So there were like 4 of them. I think we only had 3 of them. Like you had to buy each one. And we had, that's why I'm familiar with the story of Robert Smalls. We had 3 of them. And so I remember being 5, 6, 7, 8 going through that. So part of the reason why I am the way I am when it comes to history is because being able to have those books in the house and just reading them and seeing the pictures at that early of an age impacted in terms of sort of how I see things today. So when they say reading is fundamental, they're absolutely right. Mustafa.
Yeah, well, thank you, brother. And you know, we do live right now in a society that doesn't like to read, or a big percentage of it. So anytime we can create bridges to deeper, you know, points of information, I think that that's important. And I think graphic novels play that role, along with other types of things, to get people to actually read more. I'm curious about the illustrations that you have. How did you come up with those, and how do those help to bring, you know, sort of pull people in to the story?
Yes. Well, yeah, that's a great question, because the artists that we have are just amazing. The cover is by Nicholas Draper Ivey, who draws Static Shock. The interiors are Sean Damian Hill, who draws Black Panther. The interior covers are Ray Anthony Height, who also does Black Panther. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's published by Sebastian Jones and Stranger Comics, a Black independent comic book maker. So we had an embarrassment of riches, which is everybody that I asked, all the great comic book artists, Black comic book artists that I asked, said yes. So it was the artwork that you'll see in it is just amazing. The other thing we were trying to do with it is do a movie on paper. You know, make a comic book, graphic novel that if you read through it, you would have a good sense of what the movie was, and you would have a good sense too that it wasn't going to be your average, everyday, slave narrative.
Randy.
Slogan that you hear often thrown around, and I also see it on T-shirts, and it says, "We are not our ancestors." How do you feel about that slogan?
See, that's when people don't know, right? You know, it's like there are heroic ancestors. I think we're kind of, our history has been whitewashed to the point where we don't really have a connection to our history. And, there were all these stories would normally get passed down verbally. We write it on quilts. We sing songs about our history and that's pretty much gone. You know, in the information age, well, the one piece of information that doesn't get carried over is our history. Most people don't know their grandfather's first name. So, that's where we are. And, we need to fix it ourselves, because I don't think anybody else is going to come to our rescue.
And just so folks understand, this literally, I'm on here, I'm on Amazon. Here's how crazy this is. Go to my iPad. If you wanted to buy the 4-volume box set of Evidence Pictorial History of Black America, used, all four is $940. But I'm telling you, these books were the staple in many Black households, and absolutely Robert Smalls, his story was a part of that. And so, folks, if y'all want to check out this illustrated book, you definitely want to get it. So, again, the book is called, pull it up, Defiant, The Story of Robert Smalls. It is, again, his story is an amazing story. It is one that we often don't talk about. And author Rob Edwards, we certainly appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much. And what do the book sales for? Where can folks, first of all, get the book?
Yes. It's available on Amazon. Basically, wherever books are sold, we're sold out at Barnes & Noble, but you can also get it on the Legion M website, and you can get it at the Stranger Comics website.
So the Legion M website, what is that? So you can order direct from them. So some people are boycotting Amazon. So what's the Legion M website?
LegionM.com. That's the place that we're hoping will make the movie. And I would go to Amazon. We are, there's two versions. There's a comic book. We were releasing it as a issues of comic book, and then there's a graphic novel. So make sure you go to the graphic novel page. We are a bestseller in 2 categories on that. We were the number 1 best. We were the top new graphic novel, and so that's great. We sold out everywhere, and we are in a reprint, but it will be available again in about a week.
So a question I have for you. All right, so You have this as a book and a graphic novel. What's the difference?
There's a comic book. There's a couple of comic books. The graphic novel.
This
is basically 4 graphic novels, right? So yeah, when you get to a page like that, that's the beginning of a new. The new chapters are all individual comic books.
So this is all in one?
Yes, this is all in one.
Okay, got it. So it's the okay, got it. Okay, that's what I was, okay, got it. Okay, all right then. Well, folks, check it out. It's called Defiant, the story of Robert Smalls, and keep us abreast about that book.
Oh, you got it. And hope.
Keep us abreast about the making of the movie.
Got it, will do.
A lot.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, going to a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk about our new shop, Black Star Network product. Don't want to miss it. That's next.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking faith, family, and fatherhood, from rebellion to rebuilding. Each of us has different things in our toolkit that we need to look at to determine how to establish a way forward. I know going forward is not easy, and most of you, like some people, don't like change. But as we talk about it, we grow together, we love together, we live together, and we laugh together. It gives us an opportunity to discover how to set the pace for what comes next for a healthy, happy, and whole life.
There has to be consistency in their lives that show that you care, for them to know that you're listening, and then that builds trust. And then once you build the trust, they'll begin to open up because you have become their safe place that they have been seeking.
That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie here on Black Star Network.
I'm Russell L. Honoré, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, your newest product in our shop, blackstarnetwork.com site, is InBooze. That's right. It's a product that allows you to mix all natural cocktails, all that good stuff. Joining us is Ashley Evans. She's the bold woman behind InBooze. They're all natural cocktail and mocktails infused kits that are shaking up drinks in a healthy way. All right, so break us down, Ashley. What the heck is InBooze?
So it's a line of cocktail infusion kits, or you can use it for mocktails. So it's a little pouch of dehydrated fruits and herbs, and then you just put it in a mason jar, and then you let it sit for about 3 days with alcohol. 1 day if you put water in there, and then you get a cocktail or mocktail from it. If you want to mix it with some sort of mixer afterwards, but it's all natural. We dehydrate everything in-house, and it's very clean and easy to drink.
So you mix this with alcohol? Do you mix it with water? What do you mix it with?
Yeah, so normally we say mix it with alcohol, but yes, of course you can mix it with water and make mocktails as well. So you want to do about 2 or 3 cups of alcohol with it and let it sit for 3 days, and it'll rehydrate all the fruit in there, and it'll add the flavor for you. So it's just all natural. Most of them are sugar-free. So it's just a really easy way to have nice and light cocktails at home that are bar-style, top shelf style. Yeah.
And so how'd you come up with this? Where did it start?
So in 2018, I just was looking for an easier way to have good cocktails at home. And I noticed when I would make videos, and I was a food writer before this. So when I would make videos, people couldn't find the ingredients that they were looking for. So then I just started kind of dehydrating everything in sight and then putting it in little pouches. And it just, InBooze just kind of came there. I came up with the word, and then I was like, oh, what are we doing? We're putting things in booze. So that's just where the word came from. And then I just ran with it. So we started with 3 flavors. And now we have over 40. So it's just one of those things that keeps growing and growing over time.
Question from the panel. Let's see. Who would I say the biggest drinker on this panel? That would be Randy.
I knew it. I knew you were going to come to me, and you're right. Because I want to know where you get these, because I'm ready. And would they be considered healthier than when you buy mixes from, the bar mixes they have?
So we do have a website. It's InBooze.com. And then, yes, they are much healthier because it is just sliced fruit, and we don't add any sugars or anything like that. So it is much healthier. It's very straightforward. What you see is what you get. There's not any additives. And we have all the flavors on our website, and you can also order off of Etsy as well. So we have quite a few different options. We also have garnishes, cocktail salts, and then there's also sugar cubes, too.
All right, then. Joe.
So tell us about the next frontier. What do you guys see yourselves doing next? A very innovative, interesting product. And I think it's great that mocktails are available as well. But what would you think your next frontier might be?
So we're in a lot of boutiques and flower stores, but I really think that there's a whole untapped market with the bars and restaurants. We have a really great product that also could be used behind the bar at airports and things like that too. So we're trying to look at like a larger scale, and so like larger cocktail infusion kits and just different ways to help people have great kind of healthier drinks in restaurants also.
Mustafa.
Yeah, I'm out my depth on this one. I'm the mocktail person, but I'm curious, what flavors are the most popular? What seems to sell out the most?
So I would say for sure year-round berry lavender lemonade has been a great one that we love to sell. Spicy margarita, that was featured by Oprah in 2020, so that was a big one. That's always a top seller for us. And we love the blackberry smash too. And all these are also great as mocktails. So from cocktails and mocktails, you're really having an elevated drink.
First of all, when did you start this, and how have sales been going since you launched?
So we launched in 2018, and once COVID hit, I was really, really nervous, to be honest. And with the whole drinking at home, it really kind of helped us kind of skyrocket. But it was one of those things where it's like, what am I doing? You know, it's one of those things where it's like, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. So from 2020 on, we've been really scaling pretty quickly. We are handmade though, so we do have some limitations, but we're just really working with it and just having so much fun. And that's the biggest thing. Obviously right now with the economy how it is, there's always going to be some hurdles that we have to get from packaging or just even with produce and things like that. But we're just kind of hitting those barriers whenever we get to them and trying to work through it. But it's been great.
All right, then, folks, if y'all want to try out InBooze, go to, so I'm looking, do I have, I don't have the product, I do have the product, here's the product right here. So hold on, let me just go ahead and grab this, y'all. All right, let's see here. Let me read this here. So, all right, we got InBooze alcohol infusion kit. I don't drink, so it's gonna be the mocktail. So we've got Miami Vice, strawberry, coconut, infusion. It says each infusion makes 8 to 10 cocktails. We've got Citrus Grove margarita and orange twist on our classic margarita. So that's one right here. We got here, Randy getting so excited me reading this here. We got red wine sangria. Okay, we got this one right here. I'm telling y'all, I know Randy was like, yo, can you slide them to the crib? It says old fashioned. We got that one right there. We got blackberry smash, lemon and blackberry paired with a hint of sweetness, a refreshing flavor. All right. And then the final one is a berry lavender lemonade, triple berry infusion with a lemony lavender kick. And so those are the 6 different InBoozes they have there. So Ashley, great job. We appreciate it, folks. Y'all can go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to check out the InBooze products. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Control room, come on with the graphic. Shop, can y'all come on? Thank you, come on, faster. Thank you. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. You can check out the InBooze products. You can get the other products. Give me a shot of the other products that we have. We have folks on the show. Give me a shot of the other products. We supposed to have like, you know, a tight shot of the products, y'all. Over there, that's too wide. Y'all can't see nothing over there. So anyway, let's get that fixed for the next segment. So again, we got a number of black-owned products on shopblackstarnetwork.com. Please check it out. Ashley, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, folks, let me thank Joe, Mustafa, and Randy for being on today's show. Thank you so very much. I appreciate y'all being here. Folks, don't forget, Lots we want you to focus on. First of all, do we have the graphic on Saturday? All right, let's show it. We're going to be Saturday. We're going to live broadcast, y'all. Virginia Democrats have their Blue Commonwealth Gala. We're going to be live there. Oh my God, that graphic is way too busy. We're going to have to change that. That's a lot of stuff on that. That's way too much, way too much. But we're going to be live on Saturday, June 21st, again, for the Blue Commonwealth Gala, broadcasted from there. Lots of top Democrats are going to be there from across the country, and so you will only catch the live broadcast right here on the Black Star Network. Folks, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to join us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com to be able to see the graphic. If you want to support us via cash or money, check or money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Go send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003-7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Of course, also get our gear, our Black Star Network, Roland Martin Unfiltered gear. You can do so by going to rolandmartin.creator-spring.com. Get our shirts, especially, we try to tell you, FAFO Project 2025. Project crossed out, of course, our shirt. Don't blame me, I voted for the black woman. If you have not gotten your product, send us an email so we can help you sort that problem out. Don't forget, shop blackstarnetwork.com. Get the products there as well, these black-owned products, only on shopblackstarnetwork.com. Download the app Fanbase. And we want you to, of course, also, if you want to invest, go to startengine.com/fanbase. I think that is it. I will be, matter of fact, hold on. I got one more. I'm going to be, so Thursday, we are not going to be live on Thursday. It is Juneteenth. I am going to be speaking in Charleston, South Carolina. We will have that speech live right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered during that time. So that's why we're not having a show. So I will be giving the Juneteenth speech in Charleston, not South Carolina, Charleston, I'm sorry, West Virginia. I'll be in Charleston, West Virginia on Thursday, June 19th. I'm in St. Louis on June 20th. I have that graphic for you tomorrow. So if y'all are in Charleston, West Virginia, tell your friends, folks, to come on out. I'm going to be pulling it up here. I'm going to be at the Charleston Coliseum Little Theater. It's 5:30 to 7. It's free registration. Again, go to, Fireside Chat, Charleston Coliseum Little Theater. I'm going to ask Tanya on my team. It says free registration, but the graphic don't tell you how to register. Folk, y'all got to have stuff on point, please. So we will tell y'all tomorrow how you can actually register for this. So look forward to seeing y'all in Charleston, West Virginia on Thursday, and in St. Louis with the Jubilee Project on Friday. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's now go to Truth Talks.